Hi, I'll continue on where I left off in the last video. And then in figure 37, Bach says how one can enter a trill, a closing trill, through a gradual increase of speed. And this is as well a performance practice that will have been done in the day, and that one that would be open for you to explore if you're in that situation where you need it. It's, you know, you can keep it in mind. So this is so there you see how they would, through a gradual increase of speed, gone into a closing trill from below. And here's figure 38. So Bach says you can see how this trill has works well in terms of when the modulation changes. And there he gives the example in figure 38. And you can see the music is in D minor. And then at the end of the bar it modulates to G major. And perhaps you can hear in the example how that indeed does work to good effect. And there's something else in connection with that, in what Bach says about performance, which I won't say now, but I will be making the connection to this trill from below with what he says on good performance. But it further kind of defines or highlights the nature of the trill from below. And all these Lilliput professors, they can all be asked what that is. What's going on there? What can be said about the change in modulation and the trill from below? And how does that further illustrate or illuminate the character of the trill from below? And here's figure 39. And so Bach says that it'll also be used in Einschnitten. And again, the Einschnitte is something to figure out. But you can see the Einschnitt is, one can gather, there's more here than there was in other examples where Bach referred to the Einschnitt. There's more to go on with this one. And so you can see the Einschnitt is on that B in the second bar, which has the trill from below on it. And one of the suspicions that I'd have of what the Einschnitt is, if I could travel back in time and meet Bach, that would be one of my questions. If he could please explain to me the Einschnitt, because I would like to hear his explanation for it. But you can see there's a general change in the harmonic rhythm of the music. And while one could maybe wonder if the weight is on rather the second beat of the bar in the first bar, and the Einschnitt is the weight comes in early, it interrupts the regular rhythm of 3/4, and it displaces it. The weight comes in earlier, and that is the Einschnitt. That's the cutting in. It's like cutting in line ahead of your place, and that's the Einschnitt. And if you listen to my my interpretation of the Schubert Klavierstück number 1, that I'd wonder in it, towards the end of the andante section, there's two moments that perhaps you could listen to them and wonder, are they Einschnitten, the cutting in? And again in the andantino section, there's a sort of the diminished seventh interval before it returns to that main, what do you call it, like theme of that andantino section. And that there as well, what you could wonder is that, are they examples of the Einschnitt? So if you think of the bar 23 in the Appassionata, what are Lilliput saying to defend their interpretation? Nothing. Let's say I credit them with more than they should be credited for. Let's say they were to argue in case of the trill from below in bar 23 and say, see, it works well when the modulation changes. How would they use that in defense of their trill from below in bar 23? Just like so they could salvage at least one of the many trills from below they are adorning the Appassionata with, that they can at least defend one of them. How will they use that to defend at least that trill from below? And see, I've given them something that they wouldn't have had. They have nothing. It makes me, I'm sorry, but it makes me angry. Doing this channel, I have to, you know, like, I escape the cage and I ignore Lilliput. And doing this, I am offering you the chance to escape the cage too. To live in the world of music and to, I mean, these in Lilliput, they have their eye on the deck chair and margarita. And that is all about feeding off you in the cage who don't have that. And there'll be a certain few you Lilliput will pick out, or the Roll of Honour will pick out, and you'll be running after the Roll of Honour and Lilliput because you have your eye on that deck chair and margarita and you're hoping you're getting that too. But you are doing it at the cost of a life in misery, in dullness, in, you know, if you're a Lilliput professor watching this, you can go back to your piano, you can sit down and you can be miserable at what comes out when you try and play. That is what you're condemning, or condemning the people too when you have your eye on that deck chair and margarita. And anybody who dares get upset with Lilliput for keeping them in the cage, that person will be told it's their fault. They'll be told that they don't have the talent, that they weren't disciplined enough, that they didn't start early enough in life. They'll be give all the reasons why they are to blame and why Lilliput are beyond reproach. Lilliput do not say, look, we told you, we only told you lies. We only told you things that keep you in the cage. We get every single thing wrong. We are absolutely and utterly, completely useless. We have zero insight. We know none of these things. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you you're miserable with your piano playing because of us. Not because you're not talented, not because you didn't start young enough, and not because you weren't disciplined or didn't try hard enough. It was because of us, because everything we told you was utterly wrong and utterly useless. What can they do to defend their use? I mean, what do you think, listening to my demonstration of those examples, what are you starting to gather about the character of the trill from below? And has Bach once mentioned the trill from below in terms of when a trill is meant to be pianissimo and quiet and gentle and subdued, that the best thing to use will be the trill from below? I must have missed that. I mustn't have been paying proper attention, because I missed that bit where Bach said that. And I missed the bit where Bach said you'll find trills from below everywhere all the time. Because in the Appassionata, the roll of honor are playing the trill from below everywhere and all the time. And they have no explanation for it. That's why Beethoven considered himself an aristocrat. Because when you put Beethoven next to those roll of honor people, they are peasants. They are peasants. You are going to start to feel like an aristocrat too when you have this information, and when you start to notice just how innocuous, how superficial, how bland, how shallow everything is that comes out of Lilliput and comes out of the roll of honor. Paragraph 26. Wenn in Sprüngen, welche aufeinander folgen, Triller vorkommen, Figur 40, so findet der ordentliche allein statt. Und derjenige würde Unrecht tun, welcher diesen Trillern eine besondere Schärfe zu geben, an diesem Orte entweder einen Triller von unten oder einen von oben machen wollte. So here's figure 40, and so you can see the leaps that follow each other, and each of them is indicated to be trilled. And so on one level you can look at that and think, right, no trills from below when you're playing that, and then walk away and that's it. But you could first of all, you could wonder why. Why would somebody be using a trill from below? And here's the thing. Bach says in order to give these trills a special sharpness or bite or impact. So, what are we hearing from Bach? Why would one use the trill from below in order to give it a particular sharpness? So, explain Beethoven's, and if you think of the sharpness, like scharf is, if you translate it to the context of food, scharf can be spiced like a pepper, you know, like with a lot of Scovilles. That will be a hot pepper. And so, if you think of it as a meal, as a recipe, so Bach has this, or Beethoven has this pianissimo opening. And it continues. You know, we heard from the top, like you can find a masterclass on YouTube with top people where they talk about how pianissimo it should be. A little pianissimo, but not too pianissimo. And what ingredient does Beethoven use for this apparent trill from below that one would use to give it a particular sharpness, that one would mostly use at endings or before fermatas, not at the very opening of pieces? So what ingredients does Beethoven use for that pianissimo idea? And if you think of it like, let's say, it's the equivalent of warm milk. What does he put in there? He puts a hot pepper. He puts the hottest ingredient in. And this is meant to be subdued and gentle. And you can see Lilliput has no conception of the trill from below, because they are in the cage and they only deal in notes. They are the pampered ear. They only understand noise. So it's just a bunch of notes to them. They have no consequences. And then all they're interested in or they concern themselves with is the noise, the volume levels. And then a bit of holding back, pushing on a bit. No conception of the pulse. You can see they didn't stop. None of the roll of honour stopped to think, hold on, these are trills from below. They are not in keeping with the character of the music. They are not in keeping with what Beethoven wants. Beethoven wrote one trill from below in the Appassionata. And G. Henley Verlag, in their superior intelligence, when it comes back again, they say, oh, Beethoven forgot to write in the trill from below in the next one, so they added it. And you can see how they have zero insight is because when you have insight, you recognize, as soon as you gain some insight, you recognize its presence in the decision you make. And so, from then on, you will recognize its absence then in decisions you make. And the absence of the insight will prevent you from making that decision. You will, first of all, seek out that insight before you can make a decision. That they can make decisions that are wrong. And this'll go as well for what else in Lilliput that I'm going to be pointing out. That they can make that decision and think Beethoven forgot, and they do not know if that should be a trill from below or not. They just add it in, and they don't go, hold on, we don't have the insight, and that proves that they have zero insight, because never in their life have they experienced what it's like to come to a conclusion with insight. That's why they don't recognize its absence. And that proves they have zero insight. And the roll of honour have zero insight. And so one could look at that example and see, okay, so Bach says don't use a trill from below. Why would somebody want to give the trills a particular sharpness? Well, if you look at what the example is, you can see the modulation. The modulation is an answer. And in that example, he is directly referring to what he said about figure 38. It's a continuation. There's more information for those who are paying attention, who read, who watch and notice. You will see that this example deals with modulation. And why would you give the particular sharpness? Because they think it might help the modulation. It might have a good effect on the modulation. And one can wonder, and why wouldn't you do a trill from below? One of the things could be that Bach said the trills, it always has a Nachschlag, the trill from below. Aside if there's a fast Nachschlag written out. For trills, he said when notes directly follow each other that have trills on them, one doesn't play the Nachschlag. So if one's not playing the Nachschlag, one won't do a trill from below. That could be one of the explanations as to why Bach says that. And you could wonder in Beethoven's, in that trill from below in bar 44 in the Appassionata, I could say, but hold on, what about, there's no Nachschlag there. But one could see that first octave leap as being a continuation of that trill from below. And that has a Nachschlag. And you can see as well how Bach tailed that appoggiatura to indicate that it's a trill from above, that he tailed it twice, the same as the way he tailed the appoggiatura to indicate a trill from below. And that has a Nachschlag. And then he plays another trill, where he's able to draw out the ping of the trill. And why does Bach, or why does Beethoven, indicate the trill beginning on an upper note? Because we learned from Bach that that's superfluous, because the trill does begin on the upper note anyway. Something which, you know, Lilliput gets wrong, the roll of honor get wrong as well. So in that way, he's helping the roll of honor, or Lilliput. In another way, however, he could be thinking exactly of that. So in terms of preventing people from playing another trill from below with those other trills. For me, I can see just how superficial, shallow, ignorant, oblivious the roll of honor are. And you should be hearing here just how little is said, how little of substance is said in masterclasses or in lessons or in, you know, anything. Whenever these people in the roll of honor in Lilliput open their mouth, how little of any relevance or substance comes out of their mouth. And that I'm meant to, they have nothing to defend their incorrect interpretation of the Appassionata. And you can see what the state of, you know, you see Heading's classical music is dead. But then I come along to point out what's killing it. The classical music establishment will crumble. What you are going to get from what I am providing, from what I have provided in those episode videos about finger position, AC fingering solves fingering. You are going to escape the cage. You are seeing just how bad Lilliput are, how much mediocrity has eradicated genius. And people are so brainwashed that their ears so pampered that they experience nothing anymore. I'm disgusted. I am disgusted with the Roll of Honour. I'm disgusted with Lilliput. These are meant to be experts. I have no problem with experts being around, but at least try and get something right. I'm sick of seeing experts who are worse than me, who know nothing that I know. It is the most difficult thing to live with. I'll tell you, it really is difficult. They are such babies. They pretend they're grown-ups, but they're not a grown-up at all. I don't want to be a grown-up, but I am more grown-up than them. They are spoon-fed babies, and that is who you are listening to. That is who you are believing. If you have respect for yourself, you will consider yourself worth more than to be allowed to be led by the nose by that crowd of, babies in the cage, eyeing their deck chair and margarita, while you are sentenced to a life in the cage, a life where you never get to unlock your potential. You never get to hear the right answer. It will crumble because they have nothing. They are pathetic. They should all be well and truly ashamed of themselves. They just deal in notes. They haven't got a clue. They haven't got a clue. What's the trill from below to them? Did they even know they were playing a trill from below? Or it's just a collection of notes. That's all it is. That's all it is. And that's what you're paying money to them to hear them tell you to play it a little less pianissimo. Or maybe push it on a little. Or maybe turn it into an exercise, break it up into rhythms. Play it with the metronome, lift the fingers, work the fingers. What about, a sign of a great piano expert is one who closes the lid to demonstrate something. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's amazing how they can do that. They can close the lid and say, do this or something. And that there's anybody listening to them after that. That is, if anybody who listens to them or watches them do that and thinks they're listening to somebody who has anything of value at all to say, that is being as gullible as one can be. And do you want to be that gullible? And if you have your eye on that deck chair and margarita and you encounter me, those people that you believed, that you're repeating, I'll hear things that people, I know this is not their own words that they're saying, that they're just repeating what they've heard, and they think it's a sign of, it's a sign that they belong to the club, but it's not. These are, these have nothing to do with insight, nothing to do with the truth, nothing to do with the correct answer. And that's anybody who says that, and you encounter me face to face, that's all you have in your defense. And then when I break it down and have you feeling so lost that you don't know what to say, that your lip starts to quiver, those people who you put your faith in because you think they're going to give you something, or you'll get something out of them, or you'll have it better, they won't be, there'll be no sign of them, and you'll have to take that. And you might not like a bollocking from me, but imagine those Roll of Honour were to meet Beethoven. Imagine the bollocking they'd get from him. And whatever they believe, let's say they believe in heaven and all that, and they'd hope they get to meet Beethoven. in the afterlife. Beethoven won't want to see them. And it's not that they got it wrong, but it's how they exploit people with their reputation, that there's no honesty there. They pose with their reputation and they take advantage of people. And it's for that Beethoven will have nothing to do with them. And they could hope, if Beethoven is encountering them, that Beethoven doesn't have a baseball bat. Because Beethoven was a Sagittarius. And, that's like Woody Allen as a Sagittarius. And Woody Allen has said, like a biting satire is one thing, but it doesn't beat the persuasive power of a baseball bat. So Beethoven might, being a fire sign, a Sagittarius, he might think the same way. His anger at the roll of honor at Lilliput will be, mine will be nothing compared to his. They are pathetic. I defy any of them to have a response to those things. To defy any of them to defend their multitude of trills from below in Beethoven's Appassionata. To defend the fact, you can put it down to the fact that they do not make any differentiation between the Appoggiatura in bar 44 that Beethoven tails twice, and all those others which he tails once. That's it. Alone that. They have no answer for that. Nothing. Yet they'll turn around and go to the masterclass and tell you that you're not reading the score carefully enough, or tell you what you've overlooked in the score. As if they can read a score. They are functioning illiterates. They haven't got a clue, and it's all superficial. It's shallow and incorrect. It is pathetic. It is pathetic. I shouldn't. It's not fair on me that I have to. I don't want to live in a world with them in it. But I'm glad you can see here that you are being armed with substance, with a named source. You can look at that score and consider it on a whole new level, beyond volume control, beyond the bit of accelerando and retardando. And here's the only place you'll have heard it. Furious vengeance is how Beethoven would come down on them. With furious vengeance. Pathetic. It's pathetic. You can, if you want to side with them and ignore where the substance is, you're siding with a crowd of pathetic losers. Pathetic. Killing classical music, driving it into the ground. Where are all those people who complain about classical music is dead? Where are they all? They're all sucking off the people killing it. That's where they are. The swift sword of the truth. Lilliput, the roll of honor, will experience that. Each will experience it on a personal level, on a level that strikes them right through the heart. They will see themselves for who they really are. You do not have to believe anything they tell you, nothing at all, because nothing is true. And I will go on. When we get to the Prall Triller, there will be a case of Lilliput, of the, you know, G. Henley Verlag, when they added that, when they turned that trill later on in, when it comes back in the recapitulation, that moment where I have the, in bar 44, the trill from below, when they add it, they are projecting their own standards on Beethoven. Like he's so absent-minded, he overlooked it. That is their ignorance, their blindness. That is their approach to those things. It is not Beethoven's. So if they actually had a bit of humility and realized that they are far beneath Beethoven and that they should not be thinking, you know, judging Beethoven by their own standards or by their own reality, they would not be doing such things. And you will see how absurd, how ludicrous it is when we get to the Prall Triller. How bad they are, because they are really, really, really bad. Yeah, so this is, I'll leave it at that. I'm not happy. I have to think more of those of you, you know, why I'm doing it. I have to try and keep yous in mind because, you know, yous make this worth it. But it's hard because there's so many of the others. But there'll be more to come. And black and white instances where you will see that how bad they actually are. It's not going to stop. So if you're not scared of it, I'd say, you know, stick around and listen, because it'll be an eye-opener. You'll rue the day you ever believed any of them. But it doesn't matter. All the damage they do can be undone. You escape the cage and move in the world of music, you'll be amazed at how you will progress, how you will grow, the strength you are going to feel coming to you on a daily basis. You just have to take, you know, I say I don't want anybody to believe me, but you could as well try. You could take a leap of faith and just try it. Just put all what you think you know to the side and just give it a go and see what happens. And you might be surprised at the results. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and yeah. Yeah, Lilliput can take this. They can take it and they can, you know. They can wonder. They can wonder. Bye.